Asterisk, a down-on-his-luck janitor, drowning in debt, receives a mysterious barn from a stranger. Inside, a vault worth $102 million, and a secret that could destroy him. Would he risk everything to uncover the truth? Asterisk, before we dive into this unbelievable story, hit subscribe, smash that like button, and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what happens next. The last straw. The fluorescent lights of McKinley High buzz like angry wasps overhead as Ethan Cole pushes mop across the cafeteria floor for the third time that night. The smell of stale pizza and bleach clung to his clothes, a scent so familiar he barely noticed it anymore. His back ached, his hands were cracked from cleaning chemicals, and his feet throbbed in his worn-out work boots. But none of that compared to the weight pressing down on his chest, the kind that made it hard to breathe. 3 days. That's how long he had before the bank finalized the foreclosure on his mother's house. 3 days to come up with $12,000. Well, the only home she'd ever known would be gone. Ethan wiped sweat from his forehead with the back of his hand and glanced at his phone. No new messages. The last loan application had been denied. Again, he'd already sold his truck, pawned his father's old watch, and picked up extra shifts, but it wasn't enough. Nothing ever was. The school's ancient clock ticked loudly in the empty hallway. 11:47 p.m. Just a little longer, and he could clock out, drive his rattling bike to the 24-hour diner, and scarf down something cheap before another day of the same grind. Then, the front door creaked open. Ethan froze. No one should be here this late. The night security guard, Ray, usually texted if he was making rounds. Footsteps echoed down the hall. Slow, deliberate. Ethan tightened his grip on the mop handle. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was just Ray checking in. But when the figure turned the corner, it wasn't Ray. A man in a tailored suit stood there, his sharp eyes scanning the room before landing on Ethan. He looked out of place, like a corporate lawyer who'd wandered into the wrong building. "Ethan Cole?" the man asked, his voice smooth but firm. Ethan's pulse jumped. "Yeah, who's asking?" The man reached into his jacket, and for a wild second, Ethan thought he was going for a gun. Instead, he pulled out a sealed envelope. "My name is Daniel Reeves. I'm an attorney representing the estate of Silas Greer." Ethan frowned. "Never heard of him." Reeves didn't blink. "He's heard of you, and as of 2 weeks ago, you're the sole inheritor of his property." Ethan let out a disbelieving laugh. "You got the wrong guy, pal. Nobody leaves me anything." Reeves extended the envelope. "There's a deed inside. Coordinates to a barn just outside town. It's yours now." Ethan hesitated before taking it. The paper felt heavy in his hands. "Why me?" Reeves adjusted his cufflinks. Mr. Greer's instructions were clear. You were the only one he wanted to have it. Before Ethan could ask another question, Reeves turned to leave. "Wait, what's in the barn?" Reeves paused at the door. "That's for you to find out." And just like that, he was gone. The next morning, Ethan stood in front of a rusted, sagging bar at the edge of an overgrown field. The place looked like it hadn't been touched in decades. Weeds choked the entrance, and the roof dipped dangerously in the middle. He unfolded the deed again, checking the address. This had to be it. The padlock on the door was crusted with rust, but the key Reeves had given him still turned with a groan. The hinges screamed as Ethan pushed the door open, dust swirling in the sunlight. Inside, the barn was a graveyard of forgotten junk, broken tools, rotting hay, and the skeleton of an old tractor. But at the far end, something caught his eye. A steel hatch, half buried under debris. Ethan's breath hitched. He kicked aside the rubble, revealing a heavy metal door with a wheel lock, like something out of a submarine. His hands trembled as he gripped the wheel. It resisted at first, then gave way with a metallic shriek. The air that rushed out was cold and stale. Below him, a set of narrow stairs led into darkness. Ethan pulled out his phone and turned on the flashlight. The beam cut through black, revealing a hidden vault at the bottom, and inside that vault, something that would change everything. The Devil's Vault. Ethan's heartbeat pounded in his ears as he descended the narrow staircase, each step groaning under his weight. The beam from his phone cast jagged shadows against the dirt walls, making the space feel even more claustrophobic. The air smelled of damp earth and something else, oil maybe, or old metal. At the bottom, the vault door loomed before him, its surface pitted with age but still solid. No fancy electronic locks, just a heavy, old-school mechanism. Ethan ran his fingers along the cold steel, searching for a handle or a keyhole. Nothing. Then he noticed it. A small, almost invisible slot near the bottom, just wide enough to slide something into. The key. He fumbled in his pocket for the rusted key the lawyer had given him. It fit perfectly. With a sharp turn, something inside the vault clicked, and the door released a hiss of pressurized air. Ethan hesitated. What the hell am I walking into? He pushed the door open. The vault wasn't large, maybe the size of a walk-in closet, but what was inside made his breath catch. Neatly stacked against one wall were wooden crates, their surfaces worn but sturdy. On the opposite side, a small desk held a leather-bound journal, its cover cracked with age. And in the center of the room, wrapped in burlap and secure with twine, was a rectangular object about the size of a suitcase. Ethan's hands shook as he reached for the journal first. The pages were brittle, filled with tight, precise handwriting. If you're reading this, they're already watching. The words sent a chill down his spine. He flipped to the next page. My name is Silas Greer, and if you found this, it means I'm dead or close to it. You're the only one I trust to finish what I started. Ethan's stomach twisted. Trust? He didn't even know this man. He kept reading. The painting in the center of this room doesn't belong to me. It was stolen, and the people who want it back will kill to get it. Ethan's head snapped up, his eyes locking onto the burlap-wrapped object. Slowly, he set the journal down and moved toward it. His fingers worked at the twine until the burlap fell away, revealing an ornate frame beneath. And inside that frame, his breath left him in a rush. Even in the dim light of his phone, the colors were vibrant, the brushstrokes unmistakable. A water lily pond, the surface of the water shimmering under dappled sunlight. Monet. Ethan wasn't an art expert, but he'd seen enough documentaries to recognize the style. His mind raced. If this was real, he pulled out his phone and opened a search, typed in stolen Monet, and hit enter. The first result made his blood run cold. Lost Monet painting. Lubassin AUX Nymphias, valued at $102 million, still missing after 30 years. A photo beneath the headline matched the painting in front of him exactly. Ethan staggered back, his pulse roaring in his ears. This wasn't just some forgotten heirloom. This was a stolen masterpiece. And if Silas's journal was right, people were willing to kill for it. A noise from above snapped him out of his thoughts. Footsteps. Someone was in the barn. Ethan's body went rigid. He hadn't told anyone where he was going. Hadn't even fully believed this was real until 5 minutes ago. The footsteps grew louder, closer. He had seconds to decide. With a surge of adrenaline, he grabbed the journal and shoved it into his jacket. Then, before he could second-guess himself, he rewrapped the painting and tucked it under his arm. There was no time to think about right or wrong. Only survival. The footsteps reached the top of the stairs. Ethan lunged to the vault door, pulling it shut just as a voice called down. Ethan Cole? A woman's voice. Unfamiliar. He didn't answer. I know you're down there, she said. And if you want to live, you'll open this door. Ethan's fingers tightened around the painting. Who the hell was she? And how did she know his name? The stranger's warning. Ethan pressed his back against the cold vault door, his breath coming in short, sharp bursts. The woman's voice echoed down the stairwell, calm but insistent. I'm not here to hurt you, Ethan. But the people who are, they're about 5 minutes behind me. His grip on the painting tightened. Every instinct screamed at him to run, but there was no way out except past her. Silas's journal burned a hole in his jacket pocket. They're already watching. The woman sighed, her footsteps retreating slightly. Look, I get it. You don't know me, but Silas did. And if you want to understand why he left you this mess, you'll open the damn door. Something in her tone, frustration, maybe even fear, made him hesitate. Ethan clenched his jaw. Stupid. This is so stupid. But he turned the wheel lock anyway. The vault door groaned open, revealing a woman standing at the base of the stairs. early 30s, dark hair pulled into a tight ponytail, dressed in black jeans and a leather jacket that looked more functional than fashionable. Her eyes locked onto the painting under his arm, and her expression hardened. "You took it out of the wrapping," she said flatly. Ethan bristled. "Yeah, well, forgive me for being curious when a stranger leaves me $1 million surprise." "Try 100 million," she corrected, stepping closer. "And it's not a gift. It's a death sentence if you don't know what you're doing." A gust of wind rattled the barn above them, sending a shower of dust drifting down the stairs. The woman didn't flinch. "Who are you?" Ethan demanded. "Lena Voss." She jerked her chin toward the painting. "And that belongs to my family." Ethan barked out a laugh. "Yeah, okay. And I'm the King of England." Lena's eyes flashed. "Silas was my grandfather." That stopped him cold. Bullshit. The lawyer hadn't mentioned any family. Then again, the lawyer hadn't mentioned a lot of things. Lena reached into her jacket and Ethan tensed, but she only pulled out a faded photograph. She thrust it toward him. "Recognize him?" The man in the photo was older, his face lined with age, but the sharp eyes were unmistakable. The same ones that had watched Ethan from the barn's shadows in his dreams last night. Silas. And standing beside him, a younger version of Lena. Ethan's throat went dry. "If you're his family, why didn't he leave this to you?" Lena's jaw tightened. "Because he knew they'd come for me first." She grabbed the journal from his pocket before he could stop her, flipping to a dog-eared page. "Read this." Ethan skimmed the cramped handwriting. "The Voss collection was never ours to keep. I thought I was protecting it. I was wrong. Now they'll kill anyone who stands between them and what they want." Lena met his gaze. "He didn't leave you a treasure, Ethan. He left you a target. And if we don't move, we're both dead." A car engine roared outside. Lena's head snapped up. Too late. She grabbed his arm and yanked him toward the back of the vault, where a narrow grate covered what looked like a drainage tunnel. "This runs under field. Exits half a mile east near the creek." Ethan dug in his heels. "I'm not going anywhere with you until—" The barn door above them slammed open. Heavy footsteps. Voices. Vaults open. "They're here." Lena didn't wait for his agreement. She wrenched the grate off and shoved him toward the opening. "Run or die, Ethan. Your choice." A gunshot rang out, ricocheting off the vault walls. Ethan didn't need to be told twice. He plunged into the darkness, the stolen masterpiece clutched against his chest, Lena right behind him. Somewhere above, a man shouted, "Find them!" Blood and oil. The tunnel was a tight, suffocating space, barely wide enough for Ethan to crawl through with the painting pressed against his chest. Cold mud seeped through his jeans as he pushed forward, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Behind him, Lena moved with practiced efficiency, her flashlight cutting through the darkness in short, controlled bursts. "Keep moving," she hissed. "They'll check the tunnel next." Ethan's shoulders scraped against the rough concrete walls. Who the hell are these people? The kind who don't leave witnesses. A shout echoed from the vault behind them, followed by the metallic clang of the grate being kicked aside. Adrenaline surged through Ethan's veins, pushing him faster. The tunnel ended abruptly at a rusted metal cover. Lena shoved past him, pressing her ear against it before easing it open just enough to peer out. "Clear," she whispered, "but we've got maybe 90 seconds before they fan out." They emerged into a dense thicket near the creek, the morning sun filtering through the trees. Ethan's legs burned from crouching, but Lena was already moving, gesturing for him to follow. "My car's half a mile north." "Stay low." Ethan hesitated. "Why should I trust you?" Lena turned, her eyes blazing. "Because I just saved your life. And if you want to keep it, you'll move." Another shout from the barn decided it. They ran. Lena's car was an unremarkable gray sedan parked discreetly under a cluster of pines. She wrenched the door open and tossed Ethan a duffel bag. "Clothes. Change. Now." He didn't argue. His jeans and work shirt were caked in mud, too easy to spot. As he yanked on the black hoodie and cargo pants from the bag, Lena hotwired the car with a screwdriver and a flick of her wrist. "You steal cars often?" Ethan muttered, "Only when people are trying to kill me." The engine roared to life. Get in. They peeled onto the back roads, Lena's eyes constantly flicking to the rear-view mirror. Ethan clutched the painting between his knees, his mind racing. You still haven't told me what's really going on. Lena's grip tightened on the wheel. Silas was an art restorer. A damn good one. He also worked for the wrong people. The ones back there? No, those were hired guns. She took a sharp turn onto a county road. The people who sent them? They're worse. They've been hunting this painting for decades. Ethan stared down at the Monet. Why? Because it's not just a painting. Lena's voice dropped. It's proof. Before she could elaborate, a black SUV swerved onto the road behind them. Shit. Lena floored it. The SUV matched their speed, gaining ground. Ethan twisted in his seat, catching a glimpse of the driver. Sunglasses, grim-set mouth. Hold on. Lena yanked the wheel, sending them skidding onto a dirt logging trail. Branches screech against the car's sides as they careened through the trees. The SUV followed, its heavier frame bulldozing through the undergrowth. A gunshot shattered their rear windshield. Ethan ducked, glass raining over his back. Jesus Christ. Lena didn't flinch. There's a bridge up ahead. One lane. We lose them there. The bridge materialized through the trees, narrow, rusted, spanning a steep ravine. Lena accelerated toward it. The SUV was right behind them. At the last second, Lena slammed the brakes. The car skidded to a stop on the bridge, blocking the entire width. Out! Now! They bailed from the car as the SUV screeched to a halt inches from their bumper. Two men spilled out, guns raised. Lena didn't hesitate. She grabbed Ethan's arm and jumped. They hit the creek below with a bone-jarring splash. The icy water stole Ethan's breath, but Lena was already dragging him toward the far bank. Above them, the men shouted. A bullet whizzed past, kicking up water. Then a deafening crunch. Ethan looked back just in time to see the SUV's front wheels buckle under the weight of Lena's abandoned car. The bridge groaned, then collapsed in a cacophony of twisting metal, taking both vehicles with it. Keep moving! Lena hauled him into the tree lane. They didn't stop running until the shouts faded behind them. Dripping and shivering, they collapsed behind an abandoned hunting cabin. Ethan clutched the painting, miraculously still intact in its waterproof wrapping. Lena pressed a hand to her side, her breath hitching. When she pulled it away, her fingers were slick with blood. You're hit, Ethan said, stunned. Grazed. She grimaced. But we can't stop here. Ethan stared at her, at the blood, at the painting that had somehow become his responsibility. Silas's words echoed in his mind. They'll kill anyone who stands between them and what they want. And now, that was him, the collector. The hunting cabin's rotting floorboards creaked under Ethan's weight as he helped Lena inside. Dust swirled in the slanted beams of afternoon light, cutting through broken shutters. The place smelled of mildew and old gasoline, with a rusted chainsaw abandoned in one corner like some macabre decoration. Lena slumped against the wall, her face pale beneath the streaks of mud and creek water. The bullet had torn through the side of her jacket, leaving a dark, glistening stain. Take it off, Ethan ordered, his voice rough, her eyebrow arched. Not the time for her. Your jacket, he snapped. I need to see how bad it is. She peeled the leather away with a sharp inhale. The wound was ugly, a deep groove along her ribs, still oozing blood but not life-threatening. At least not yet. Ethan ripped a strip from his own shirt and pressed it against the injury. Hold this. Lena's fingers closed over his, surprisingly steady despite the pain. You've done this before. Foster care. Fights. You learn. He rummaged through the cabin's moldy cabinets, coming up with a half-empty bottle of whiskey and a rusted but clean hunting knife. This'll hurt. Lena snatched the bottle and took a long swig before burying her teeth around the knife's handle. Do it. Ethan poured the alcohol over the wound. Her scream was muffled, but no less vicious, her free hand clawing into the floorboards hard enough to splinter the wood. When it was over, she spat the knife out, breathing hard. Asshole, you're welcome. Ethan tied the makeshift bandage tight. Now talk. Who were those men? Lena wiped her mouth with the back of her hand. Victor Hale's dogs. The name meant nothing to Ethan. Art collector, she elaborated. The real kind. The ones who don't care how their treasures are acquired. Silas worked for him for years, restoring stolen pieces, so they could be sold quietly. Her expression darkened, until he realized some art should stay stolen. Ethan glanced at the painting, still wrapped and tucked safely in his backpack. The Monet. It's part of a set. 5 paintings stolen from Jewish families during World War II. Hale's been collecting them one by one. Lena's jaw tightened. This is the last one. A cold understanding settled over Ethan. Silas stole from him. And hid it. Then hid me when Hale came looking. Lena met his eyes. You were his backup plan. Ethan recoiled. What? He knew Hale would track any relative. But a stranger? A nobody janitor with no connection. Lena's smile was razor thin. You were perfect. The word should have stung. Instead, they ignited something hot and furious in Ethan's chest. He'd been used, pawned in some dead man's game without his consent. But before he could unleash that anger, a new sound cut through the cabin silence. The distant but unmistakable thrum of helicopter blades. Lena went rigid. Hale doesn't waste time. Ethan rushed to the window. Sure enough, a black speck grew larger against the horizon. We need to move. Not yet. Lena grabbed his arm. Hale's hosting an auction tonight at his estate. Buyers flying in from all over the world. Her fingers dug in. That painting's our ticket in. A hysterical laugh bubbled up in Ethan's throat. You want to walk into the lion's den with what he's hunting? Exactly. Lena's eyes gleamed. Because he'll never expect it. The helicopter was closer now, its shadow skimming the treetops. Ethan stared at this woman, bloody, reckless, and possibly insane, and realized with dawning horror that he was going to follow her, not because he trusted her, but because he had no other choice. Masks and lies. The helicopter's searchlight swept over the tree line as Ethan and Lena crouched behind a rusted-out pickup truck in the cabin's overgrown yard. The engine noise was deafening now, kicking up leaves and dirt in swirling eddies. Lena pressed a hand to her bandaged side, her breath coming in short bursts. We need to split up. Ethan shot her a look. That's the worst idea you've had yet. It's the only idea. She yanked a set of keys from her pocket and thrust them into his hand. There's a motorcycle stashed half a mile east. Take the painting to the address in the GPS. It's safe. And you? Her smile was all teeth. I'm going to party. The helicopter banked sharply, its light slicing across the truck's hood. They were out of time. Ethan hesitated. This felt like a trap, like she was ditching him, but the roar of the approaching engine decided for him. He grabbed the backpack containing the Monet and bolted for the tree line. Behind him, Lena moved in the opposite direction, her silhouette disappearing into the tall grass just as armed men began rappelling down from the helicopter. The motorcycle was exactly where she'd said it'd be, a sleek black Ducati hidden under a tarp behind an abandoned gas station. Ethan had never driven anything this expensive in his life, but there was no time for hesitation. He kicked it to life and peeled onto the back roads, the painting strapped securely to his back. Lena's GPS led him to a nondescript storage facility on the outskirts of the city. Unit 317 opened to a small, climate-controlled space that looked more like an art studio than a storage locker. Canvases lined the walls, along with restoration tools, and a wall of monitors showing news feeds. And in the center of it all, a safe. Ethan approached cautiously. The safe was biometric, retina scan required, which meant Lena had planned for him to come here alone. Son of a bitch, he muttered. He set the painting on a work table and unwrapped it carefully. The Monet gleamed under the studio lights, more vibrant than ever. Up close, he could see the delicate brushstrokes, the way the light seemed to dance on the water's surface. It was beautiful and stolen. Ethan pulled out Silas's journal, flipping through the pages until he found the entry on the Monet. Hale's buyers don't care about provenance, but this one is different. The code is in the brushwork. Find it and you find the truth. Code? Ethan leaned closer, examining the painting's surface. At first, he saw nothing, just the expected texture of oil paint. But then, in the corner, barely visible, numbers. Tiny, precise numbers etched into the paint. Coordinates. His phone buzzed abruptly, shattering the silence. Unknown number. He answered warily. Yeah. Did you find it? Lena's voice was tight, urgent. Ethan's eyes darted back to the numbers. Yeah, there's something here. Good. Memorize it, then destroy the painting. His blood went cold. What? It's the only way, she hissed. Hale's men are everywhere, if they get their hands on it. A gunshot echoed through the phone, followed by static. Then the line went dead. Ethan stared at the Monet, his pulse roaring in his ears. Destroy a $102 million masterpiece? But the coordinates, those were real. And if Silas had hidden them this carefully, they had to lead to something bigger. He grabbed a palette knife from the work table. Then the studio's door burst open behind him. The burning bridge. The door slammed against the wall with a force that made the canvases rattle. Ethan spun, palette knife raised like a weapon, expecting Hale's men, but it wasn't a mercenary who stood in the doorway. It was a girl, no older than 16, with wild auburn curls and a shotgun leveled at his chest. Her hands shook, but her aim didn't. Put the knife down, she ordered, voice steadier than her grip. Ethan slowly lowered the blade. Who the hell are you? Clara Voss. Her eyes flicked to the Monet, then back to him. Lena's sister. The resemblance was there. Same sharp cheekbones, same defiance set to the jaw. But where Lena was all control fury, this girl was raw nerves and barely contained panic. Ethan kept his hands visible. Lena didn't mention you. Because she's an overprotective asshole. Clara edged further into the room, keeping the gun trained on him. She also told me to shoot you if you tried to damage that painting. A dry laugh escaped Ethan's throat. Funny, she just told me to destroy it. Clara's grip faltered. What? The monitors behind them suddenly flashed red. Security alerts blaring across every screen. Camera feeds showed black SUVs screeching to a halt outside the storage facility. They found us, Clara whispered. Ethan didn't hesitate. He grabbed the painting and shoved it into Clara's arms. Take it. There's coordinates hidden in the... I know about the numbers, she snapped, but we can't outrun them. Ethan scanned the studio. His gaze landed on the ventilation system. Industrial-sized ducts running along the ceiling. We don't have to. He dragged a work table beneath the largest vent and pried the cover off with a palette knife. Dust rained down as he boosted Clara up first. The Monet strapped her back now. Where does this lead? She asked, wriggling into the tight space. Somewhere that's not here. Gunfire erupted outside. Close. Ethan jumped for the duct just as the studio door exploded inward. He caught a glimpse of black tactical gear before hauling himself up, the vent cover snapping back into place beneath him. The crawl space was claustrophobic, the thin metal buckling under their combined weight. Clara led the way, moving with surprising agility through the maze of ducts. Behind them, shouts echoed as Hale's men tore the studio apart. They'll track us through the cameras, Clara whispered. Not if we're ghosts. Ethan pointed to a junction ahead where 3 ducts branched off. We split up. You take the painting too. No way. Clara's eyes flashed. Lena told me to stick with you. Another burst of gunfire below them. Closer this time, they'd found the vent. Ethan made a decision. He grabbed Clara's wrist and yanked her toward the leftmost duct. Then we go together. They belly crawled through the suffocating darkness, the metal groaning ominously. At the next junction, Ethan spotted a maintenance hatch leading outside. He kicked it open, revealing a 20-foot drop to a dumpster below. Clara didn't flinch. She tossed the painting first, then jumped after it, rolling expertly on impact. Ethan followed less gracefully, his ribs screaming as he hit the metal bin. They emerged into an alley just as the first explosion rocked the building behind them. Hale's men destroying evidence. Flames licked up the side of the storage facility, casting eerie shadows as Ethan and Clara sprinted for the street. Clara suddenly skidded to a stop. Wait! She ducked into a nearby parked car, unlocked, keys still in the ignition. Some poor bastard's coffee sat steaming in the cup holder. Ethan slid into the passenger seat as she hot-wired it with terrifying efficiency. Jesus, they teach you that in middle school? Summer camp. The engine roared to life. Hold on. She peeled out with a squeal of tires that would have impressed a NASCAR driver. Ethan white-knuckled the dashboard as they weaved through traffic, the storage facility burning in the rear-view mirror. Only when they put several miles between them, and the fire did Clara finally speak again. The coordinates, she said quietly. They lead to my grandfather's cabin in the Adirondacks. Ethan turned to study her profile, the stubbornness of her jaw, the dark circles under her eyes. A kid caught in a war she shouldn't be fighting. Why there? Clara's grip tightened on the wheel, because that's where he hid the rest of them. The pieces clicked together with almost physical force. The Monet wasn't the prize. It was a map, and Ethan was beginning to suspect he'd been played from the very beginning. The cabin in the pines. The Adirondack Mountains rose like jagged teeth against the pre-dawn sky as Ethan and Clara navigated the winding forest roads. The stolen sedan, now with stolen plates, lurched over potholes, its headlights cutting through the mist that clung to the pines. Clara hadn't spoken in hours. Her knuckles stayed white on the steering wheel, her eyes fixed on the dark road ahead. The shotgun lay across her lap like a grim security blanket. Ethan studied the coordinates again on his phone. Another mile. Should be a turnoff up here. The girl's only response was a tight nod. They found the overgrown driveway exactly where the numbers indicated. A nearly invisible break in the trees marked by a rusted mailbox with the name Greer barely legible. Clara killed the headlights as they crept forward, the car bouncing over roots and rocks until the cabin came into view. It wasn't what Ethan expected. No quaint hunting lodge. This place was fortified. Steel shutters bolted over the windows. Motion sensors visible in the moonlight. A heavy steel door that looked like it belonged on a bank vault. Clara exhaled sharply. He upgraded. Ethan's hand hovered near the door handle. "You've been here before?" "Once. When I was little." Her voice went distant. "Before I knew what he really did." They approached cautiously, Clara leading the way with the shotgun raised. The keypad by the door was biometric, just like the safe in the storage unit. Clara pressed her palm against it, without hesitation. A soft beep, a click. The door swung open on silent hinges. The interior smelled of cedar and gun oil. Moonlight filtered through cracks in the shutters, revealing a space that was part artist studio, part military bunker. Canvases lined one wall, some finished, others blank. The opposite wall held enough firearms to outfit a small militia, but it was a massive steel table in the center of the room that caught Ethan's attention. For paintings lay carefully arranged there, each one unmistakably priceless. Clara moved them like a sleepwalker, her fingers hovering over the frames. "Van Gogh's Wheatfield with Crows," she whispered. "Degas Dancers." Klimt's portrait of Adele Bloch-Bauer, too. Her voice cracked. "They're all here." Ethan did the math instantly. 5 paintings total, including the Monet. The Voss collection. Clara turned to him, her eyes glistening. "Stolen from my great-grandparents during the war. Hale's been hunting them for decades." A floorboard creaked upstairs. Both froze. Clara's shotgun came up instantly as footsteps moved across the ceiling. Deliberate, unhurried. Someone was here, waiting. Ethan grabbed a hunting knife from the wall display, his pulse hammering. The footsteps descended the stairs now. Then a voice cut through the dark. "You're late." Lena emerged from the shadows, her leather jacket streaked with blood and soot. A pistol hung loose in her grip. Clara nearly dropped the shotgun. "You." Ethan didn't lower his knife. "How'd you find us?" Lena tapped her temple. "Same coordinates. Same destination." She limped toward the table, her free hand trailing over the paintings. "Hale's men are 20 minutes behind me. We need to move." Clara's grip tightened on her weapon. "You told me to stay away from this place, that it wasn't safe." "It's not." Lena finally met her sister's gaze. "But neither is the world out there. Not anymore." Ethan watched the sisters, the way Clara's anger warred with relief, the exhaustion in Lena's posture. This wasn't just about stolen art anymore. This was family, legacy, and he was the outsider caught in the middle. Lena turned to him suddenly. You've seen the coordinates. You know what they lead to. Ethan glanced at the paintings. Not just these. No. Lena pulled a faded photograph from her pocket, a black and white image of a vault door marked with strange symbols. There's a sixth piece, the key to everything. Clara inhaled sharply. The Rembrandt. Before anyone could explain, the perimeter alarm blared to life, a piercing wail that shattered the tense silence. Red security lights flashed as the monitors by the door lit up with exterior camera feeds. Black SUVs, armed men, and at their center, a tall figure in an immaculate overcoat. Victor Hale had arrived. Lena racked her pistol slide. We hold here. Clara shook her head, already moving toward a hidden panel in the wall. No, we finished what Grandpa started. The panel slid open, revealing a tunnel entrance. Ethan stared at the darkness beyond, then back at the approaching threat. Some choices weren't choices at all. He grabbed the nearest painting. Move. The Rembrandt gambit. The tunnel swallowed them whole, a narrow, damp passageway that sloped downward into the mountain's belly. Clara led with flashlight, the beam bouncing off rough-hewn stone walls as the sounds of Hale's men breaching the cabin faded behind them. Ethan carried two paintings in a makeshift sling, their frames digging into his back with every step. Lena brought up the rear, her pistol trained on the darkness behind them. You never mentioned the sixth piece, Ethan hissed over his shoulder. Lena's voice was tight. The Rembrandt isn't just another painting. It's proof. Of what? Everything. Clara suddenly stopped short. The tunnel ended at a massive steel door identical to the cabin's entrance. Another biometric scanner glowed faintly in the dark. Lena shouldered past them both and pressed her palm to the reader. The door hissed open, revealing a vault that made Ethan's breath catch. It wasn't just a room, it was a museum. Climate-controlled display cases lined the walls, each containing artifacts that looked like they belonged behind velvet ropes. Ancient manuscripts, jeweled daggers, a carved ivory box that gleamed under the vault's soft lighting. And at the center, on a pedestal of its own, sat a small wooden crate. Clara moved to it like someone in a trance. This is it. Ethan helped her pry the crate open. Inside, nestled in custom foam padding, was a painting no larger than a hardcover book, a portrait of a young woman with hauntingly familiar eyes. The girl with the pearl earring. Ethan breathed. Not quite. Lena ran a finger along the frame's edge. This is Vermeer's other masterpiece. The girl with the amber necklace. Lost during the Nazi occupation. Clara turned the painting over, revealing a series of numbers etched into the back. Coordinates again. To what? Ethan asked. Lena's smile was grim. To Hale's private collection, where he keeps the rest of his stolen trophies. The pieces clicked together with sudden, brutal clarity. This was never about getting your family's art back, Ethan realized. It's about burning him. Clara nodded. The Rembrandt proves Monet and others were stolen. The coordinates in this painting lead to Hale's entire operation. She carefully rewrapped the artwork. Grandpa didn't just hide these to protect them. He was building a case. A distant explosion rocked the tunnel. Dust rained from the ceiling. They're through the cabin, Lena said, checking her pistol's magazine. We have maybe 10 minutes before they find the tunnel. Ethan grabbed the Rembrandt. Then we move. They took a different passage, narrower, steeper, that climbed upward to the mountain. Ethan's thighs burned with the effort, the paintings on his back feeling heavier with each step. The tunnel ended at a grated storm drain. Fresh air and moonlight filtered through as Clara pushed the cover aside. They emerged onto a rocky outcrop overlooking the cabin, now swarming with Hale's men. And there, standing calmly amidst the chaos, was Victor Hale himself. Even from a distance, the man radiated menace. Mid-50s, silver-haired, dressed in a tailor coat that probably cost more than Ethan made in a year. He held something small and rectangular in one hand, a device that glowed faintly blue. Lena went rigid. He has the tracker. What tracker? Ethan asked. The one he planted in me. She pulled back her jacket collar to reveal a fresh scar along her shoulder blade. That's how he found us so fast. Clara's face paled. He's coming. Sure enough, Hale was staring directly at their position now, the device in his hand pulsing steadily. He said something to the armed men surrounding him, and they immediately fanned out toward the base of the outcrop. Lena chambered around. I'll hold them off. You two get to the car. Clara grabbed her arm. No, we stick to the plan. The plan changed. Lena pressed the Rembrandt into Clara's hands. Take this to Interpol. The case number is etched in the frame. Ethan saw the resolve in Lena's eyes. The same look Silas must have had when he decided to stand against Hale. Some choices weren't choices at all. Another explosion shook the ground as Hale's men blew the vault door. Lena turned toward the sound, her pistol raised. Go! Clara hesitated just a second longer, then grabbed Ethan's hand and ran for the tree line. The last thing Ethan saw before the forest swallowed them was Lena standing alone on the rocks, a silhouette against the rising flames, buying their escape with bullets and blood. The reckoning. The forest swallowed them whole. Branches lashed at Ethan's face as he and Clara crashed through the undergrowth, the Rembrandt secured tightly against her chest. Behind them, gunfire echoed to the trees, sharp, staccato bursts that grew more sporadic with each passing minute. Lena was buying them time, but not much. Clara stumbled over a root, nearly dropping the painting. Ethan caught her arm, hauling her upright. Keep moving. Her face was streaked with dirt and tears. We can't just leave her. We have to. Ethan dragged her forward, or this was all for nothing. They reached the stolen sedan just as the first tendrils of dawn crept over the mountains. Clara fumbled with the keys, her hands shaking so badly Ethan had to take them from her. The engine roared to life. Tires spit gravel as they fishtailed onto the dirt road. Ethan checked the rear-view mirror constantly, expecting black SUVs to come barreling after them at any second. But the road stayed empty. Too empty. Clara clutched the Rembrandt like a lifeline. Interpol's field office is in Albany, 2 hours east. Ethan's grip tightened on the wheel. We're not going to Interpol. What? He nodded to the side mirror. A single motorcycle had appeared in the distance, closing fast. Not one of Hale's men. This bike was sleek, black, and very familiar. Lena's Ducati. But the rider wasn't Lena. Victor Hale's silver hair streamed behind him like a battle standard as he gained on them, one hand on the handlebars, the other leveling a pistol. Ethan stomped the accelerator. Hold on. The sedan lurched forward just as the first bullet shattered their rear windshield. Clara screamed, ducking low as glass rained over them. Ethan swerved violently, nearly losing control on the winding mountain road. Hale matched their every move, his bike leaning into the curves with terrifying precision. Another shot, this one punched through the headrest where Ethan's head had been seconds before. Clara unbuckled her seatbelt. Give me the gun. What? The shotgun. Give it to me. Ethan reached behind the seat with one hand, tossing her the weapon just as they hit a straightaway. Hale took advantage, pulling alongside them. Clara didn't hesitate. She rolled down the window, shouldered the shotgun, and fired. The blast caught Hale's front tire. The Ducati wobbled violently, then flipped end over end in a shower of sparks. Ethan watched in the mirror as Hale's body tumbled across the asphalt like a broken doll, coming to rest in a motionless heap. Silence. Then Clara whispered, "Oh my God." Ethan didn't slow down. The Albany Interpol field office was a nondescript building near the state capitol. Ethan parked 3 blocks away, watching the entrance for a full 20 minutes before nodding to Clara. Ready? She held the Rembrandt tighter. What if they don't believe us? Ethan thought of Silas's journal, of the coordinates etched into priceless art, of Lena standing alone against Hale's men. They will. The agent who met them, a weary-looking woman in her 40s, started skeptical. But as Clara unwrapped the Rembrandt and showed her the case number etched into the frame, her expression changed. 2 hours later, a SWAT team raided Hale's compound. The news broke at sunset. Ethan and Clara watched from a motel room as the footage played on every channel. Victor Hale's private collection being hauled out in crates, agents confirming they recovered dozens of stolen masterpieces. And in a separate report, the identification of a body found at the scene of a motorcycle accident. Lena was never mentioned. Clara turned off the TV. She's alive. Ethan didn't answer. 1 month later, the first of the Voss collection paintings was returned to its rightful heirs. Ethan watched the ceremony on a library computer, his hands still rough from janitorial work, but his bank account noticeably healthier. An anonymous donation had cleared his mother's medical debts. When he stepped outside, a familiar black Ducati was parked at the curb. No rider, just a single key in the ignition. And tucked under the seat, a postcard with coordinates written in familiar handwriting. Ethan smiled. Some stories weren't over yet. Did this story keep you on the edge of your seat? Then do us a favor. Hit that like button, subscribe for more thrilling tales, and ring the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Want to see Ethan and Clara's next adventure? Let us know in the comments. And as always, stay curious, stay brave.